any of the athletes expected.
Everything was feeling great, and you know, I was on top of the world. I knew where I was and I knew how I was swimming, and I was all set to go, and then all of a sudden everything just went really downhill really fast, and it was just incredible how it just went so fast. You know, and when I was swimming for the boat, I knew that something was wrong because I swam to the boat with Scott Tinley, and I thought, oh no, you know, something must be going wrong.
Back at the changeover area, officials are astonished to see what James already knows. Scott Tinley is out of the race. Unable to get into the borrowed wetsuit, the race favourite is forced into an ignominious withdrawal. He's in no mood for a chit-chat.
Okay.
Within minutes, the Pacific Palms base area is looking like the aftermath of some strange aquatic battle. The cold swiftly claims 29 competitors.
Yep.
As the emergency services swing into high gear, the swimmers who have somehow managed to stay the course approach the finish. Former Olympian Graham Windiat is first in, but his legs are still somewhere out on the freezing lake. Paul Bannister strides past to win the swim leg. His time for the 3.8 kilometers, 55 minutes and 5 seconds. Gradually, the number of finishers grows, and the officials breathe a sigh of relief. They still have a race. First woman ashore is Queenslander Jan Wanklin. Her time, 57.32. Then it's on to the bikes, and the next grueling leg, 180 kilometers, 5 to 8 hours in the saddle. The cycle leg stretches from Pacific Palms to a turnabout point in the foothills of the Kulanok Mountains. At the furthest point are 2 tortuous hill climbs. The riders cover this part of the course twice before heading into Forster for the start of the marathon leg. With the retirement of Scott Tinley, the new race favourite is fellow Californian Grant Boswell, whose swim time of 56.56 puts him well up with the leaders as the icy swim leg continues.
Well, that's probably where my dream state started, I think, was in the swim. I got out of the water and I don't remember much for the first 10 or 15 miles of the bike. You know, it's all just, I know what I need to do. You know, I need to go and get in my bike clothes. I need to get on my bike. I need to go. But I was pretty out of it. You know, I saw some pictures of the finish of the swim of me getting out of the water, and like I say, it's, oh yeah. You know, I don't really remember that, but that's certainly me there at that point. You know, I don't know. I never thought of pulling out of the swim during the race. It never had crossed my mind. I saw other people ahead of me finishing, and if they're going to do it, you know, I could do it. And the colder I got, kind of the harder I swam.
Back in the changeover area, the first priority is to get warm. Mark Dragon pretty much sums up the feeling at this stage.
Oh, I'm so cold. That water's too cold, guys. You just can't have it like that. Guys are going to get killed. I was nearly one of them. Oh, Jesus. Did you put the... How cold is that water? 2 degrees.
And with those few heartfelt sentiments, the Aussie favourite is away on the bike leg. What no one knows at this stage is just what went wrong out there. The organisers had tested the water temperature before the race and pronounced it okay. It wasn't.
The water temperature has obviously affected quite a number of the of the swimmers, in particular, to our surprise, a lot of the more elite athletes at the front end of the field. We were surprised that athletes like Scott Tinley and Mark Allen were forced to drop out through cold or hypothermia about the halfway stage through the race. The water temperature when we measured it at 4 a.m. was 19 degrees. Now, we would have been hesitant at anything below 18 degrees. We perhaps should have taken more samples because there are such things as thermoclines where the water temperature gets layered into warm and cold areas, and I guess that out deeper at the back end of the lake there, it was colder than we measured it 200 to 300 metres offshore. Also, the wind continued across the surface of the lake, and as the swimmers lift their heads and arms out of the water, that would have a continuing cooling effect. And I would think that the other thing, of course, is that the elite athletes are very thin, particularly this applies to people like Allen and Tinley who don't have much fat on them at all, and fat helps to protect you from the effects of cold. The women seem to shape up a lot better than the men, as one would expect, because they have a characteristic layer of subcutaneous fat that does protect them, and in general they came out better than the men.
It's fortunate Teresa Kuneva couldn't hear that. No one could accuse Teresa of being fat. Cold, though. Teresa is an officer in the Australian Air Force, and she knows exactly where she's heading.
You've set yourself a challenge, you've got to meet that challenge. Okay, there are some people that pull out. I can't understand that personally because I've set myself a challenge and I will finish it, barring, say, a pulled muscle or something. I'm not going to injure myself. But I think it's just a matter of you just keep going. You know, there's the finish, you just keep going until you get there. Survival.
Another survivor is the oldest competitor, 55-year-old Billy Stafford. Billy's completed 4 marathons in preparation for today, but nothing has prepared him for the cold of Wallace Lake.
You all right? Yeah, I'll be all right. Hey, Mark, it's cold. Look at the nice.
Okay, you just go out and do good.
Thanks. Give us that.
Buttons eye.
We go through. Good luck, matey.
And so Lake Wallace slips into frigid memory. Despite Mark Dragon's dire prediction, the lake hasn't claimed any lives, just the hopes of 29 competitors. Just over 2 hours have gone by. And out on the bike course, finely tuned muscles are beginning to unfreeze. Young Victorian Stephen Forster takes an early lead, but Grant Boswell is hot on his trail. He expends a few valuable breaths inquiring after the welfare of a couple of colleagues.
Should Tilly and Allen really drop out?
Halfway through the first leg.
Allen too? Couldn't have happened to a couple nicer guys.
.9:15, and slipping up unobtrusively through the field is expatriate New Zealander Erin Baker. Can she hold the North American superstars? Cycling strongly at this stage are the extraordinary Canadian twins Sylviane and Patricia Puntis, first and second in Hawaii last year. The 25-year-old Puntis sisters are full-time professional triathletes. They've won every major event on the world calendar, mostly filling both top placings. To most people's surprise, Erin Baker has opened a 5-minute lead on the twins, but it's early days yet, and they're renowned finishers. Also on the course, a few minutes behind the Puntis twins, is another Canadian, 28-year-old Jacqueline Shaw. One of only 2 women ever to win a triathlon outright. There are many who feel that, barring mishaps, this could be her day to take the Puntis twins. By the first turnaround on the cycle leg, Australia's Mark Dragon is lying 6th.
That's it. Round you go, bud. Go on.
Erin Baker is also holding her lead at the turn. A triathlon is many races in one. As the leaders enter the second half of the cycle course, back at Pacific Palms, Sydney-sider Nick Reed is just leaving the water. Nick is the last of the 129 survivors of the swim leg. But that's the point, just getting there. makes Nick a winner. It's part of the strange pull that can make the triathlon almost an addiction to many.
I've been cold before in my life. I've never been like that.
Also still in there, the oldest competitor, Billy Stafford.
Want your specs?
Yes, please, mate.
The top triathletes pride themselves on what they call transitions, the lightning change from swim to cycle to run. Billy's just taken half an hour to get into his cycling clobber, but then he's not looking for the winner's wreath.
I hope I don't fall off.
That's what keeps me going, is a smile and a wave and a bit of a call is the things that interest me in these type of competitions. It's just to say, give them a smile and a wave. That's all I look for.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
As Billy Stafford heads out to begin his cycle leg, out on the course, the lead has changed. Grant Boswell has swept past young Steve Forster and has begun to establish a commanding lead.
Fun part's yet to come, huh?
Another fun part for the triathletes came 2 nights earlier at a triathlon institution called the Carbohydrate Loading Party. This binge on otherwise forbidden foods like beer and pasta is one of the training innovations that make this triple marathon event possible. These competitors have spent the past day or so on high-protein diets. When they follow this by stuffing themselves with starch, their bodies greatly increase their stores of glycogen, the fuel that muscles run on. That's the theory anyhow. And as they wash down their spaghetti and cakes with beer and cola, no one here's going to argue. Least of all, Alex Hamill. Hamill, managing director of a leading Sydney ad agency, is typical of the triathlete's upmarket profile.
That everybody eventually, when you get in a conversation who doesn't know much about triathlons and marathons, always says, why do you do them? I've heard a lot of answers. I've heard Dave Scott say that the Ironman Triathlon is the ultimate athletic challenge, and I think that's probably right. I've heard people say things like, there's nothing like standing in the lake at dawn with your feet in the cold water, wondering how the dice will roll that day. That's somewhat spiritual. I take a different view. All I want to do is simply see if I can. It's as simple as that. I find that I can handle my work okay. I've got a great family life. I enjoy living very, very much. To me, it's simply to see whether I can make it. Nothing more. I don't want to beat anybody. I want to be there at the end. That's really what it's about.
At the top of the triathlon heap, however, it's still all about winning. Scott Tinley.
As far as the competition is concerned, it's gotten tougher every year, and it's going to get tougher for several years to come as the top triathletes learn more and more ways to get faster, to train harder, building upon a base they've built for the past couple of years. Each season we do more and more mileage, we add more intensity, and what's happening is the finishing times are coming down drastically each year. But as far as the camaraderie decreasing because of that competition level and because of the infusion of dollars into the sport, I really hope that it doesn't get as bad as it is in other sports. One of the reasons I'm attracted to the sport and enjoy being a top professional is because of the friendships I've made with the top people. And it's a rarity. A lot of people ask us all the time, how do you and Scott Molina and Mark Allen and the top 3 people in the world go out and train together and live together every day and go out and drink beer at night, race against each other for thousands of dollars and not have an effect on your friendship? And I think that we're all we have a lot of respect for each other, and we've gotten over that, and so I sincerely hope it doesn't get bad.
On this night at Forster, there seems no fear of the camaraderie evaporating. Back on the course, race leader Grant Boswell is showing the full benefit of the Carbo Party. Boswell rounds the second mark at Pacific Palms, 2 minutes clear of the field. On his way back down the course, Boswell passes Steve Forster coming in. "19-year-old Forster has lost some ground, but is still full of riding, and the crowd shows its appreciation." few moments later comes Californian Glenn Carlson, with Aussie Mark Dragon in hot pursuit. In the women's division, Erin Baker is maintaining her lead. She makes the turn at 10:29 a.m., an amazing 10th overall.
Erin Baker, New Zealand.
10:59, and out on the course, spirits are high.
Last time out, eh? This'll be good coming back.
Is now over 4 hours old. Before the final sprint to Forster and the start of the marathon, competitors make one more run up to the Kulanocks, back to Pacific Palms and along Lakes Way to the Forster Memorial Club. At the final turn on the bike course, the leader's arrival is heralded by a police motorcyclist. And then comes Grant Boswell riding strongly up the hill, and then it's head down for the run to the finish. The spectacular mountain views slipping past unnoticed.
Number 3.
Coming to a country like this, it's my first time to Australia. I'm looking forward to seeing the country, but you really can't spend the time to really enjoy the area because the race is just always in the back of your mind.
And this is an area that really does provide plenty to enjoy. Neatly bracketing the mouth of Lake Wallace, the twin towns of Forster and Tuncurry lie on a balmy stretch of the New South Wales coast, 4 hours drive north of Sydney. Many of the 14,000 residents work in the thriving fishing industry, but tourism is the region's main claim to fame. 13 great beaches form the focus of life in Forster virtually year-round, as a warm coastal current keeps the winters mild. The hinterland, with Wallace, Smiths and Myall lakes, provides a haven for bird life, which is fully protected. Much of the area is designated a national park. Organisers of the $50,000 Great Lakes Triathlon hope it'll become a permanent fixture on the world circuit. They couldn't have chosen a nicer place. Still many kilometres from the scenic delights of Forster, however, is the senior female competitor, 43-year-old Melbourne teacher Barbara Fay. Barbara's a somewhat unwilling cyclist.
On that bike, you've got so many things can happen. You can either puncture or do something crazy to that piece of equipment that I honestly, mechanically, know very little about. And I think the whole of the bike race, I am anyhow, sort of really concerned about it. Once I get off that bike, I think, boy, I've done that. Now I can get onto something that it's just you out there. You're not worrying about any piece of equipment.
One piece of equipment all competitors have to keep careful tabs on throughout is their own body. For a race like this, it needs plenty of fuel. The pro's strategy is to start eating at the beginning of the bike leg and keep loading it in right throughout the race. A drink every 10 minutes or so is essential to keep the body hydrated. The friendly folk at the 20 aid stations provide the necessary sustenance along the way.
Definitely the last time I'm coming up here.
Teresa's breezy repartee as she rounds the last turn disguises a dedicated competitor. She can't see why everyone isn't out here doing this.
I'm always criticised because I say everyone can do it, and people turn around and say, no, not everyone can do it. But I truly believe, and I think I still do, think that people can do it if they want to. When I was at school, I wouldn't have thought twice about running. I didn't want to run. I mean, that was too much work. But now, try stopping me. You discover something that you get out of it. Maybe it's the adrenaline or the achievement, the success that you enjoy and you want more of it.
And for another angle on the sort of dedication these athletes develop, here's Mark Dragon again, on the way into Forster, and in trouble.
Back's chronic. I got cramps all over from that cold swim. I can't ride in the crouch, I gotta ride upright. It's terrible. Water was too cold. No way I was gonna get out. I'd have walked in. Don't pull out unless you're dead.
Dragon's do-or-die determination, however, is built on a solid base of intelligent training.
Part of training is knowing when not to train. The guys who go out and push too hard are the guys that won't last in the sport. I mean, your enthusiasm dies and you get injured. So part of the thing is knowing how to train. I mean, that's basically one of the most important parts of triathlon. You must be careful in your training. You've got to realise when you're tired. You've got to realise when maybe you have a slight strain in a muscle or a ligament. So when you say people can push too far, when they do, that's going to be the end of them in the sport.
Which brings us to the end of the bike leg. It's 12:56 as Grant Boswell pulls his feet out of his cycling shoes and sprints for the changing room. Mark Dragon is 15 minutes behind and drawing on every ounce of energy at his command. It's 12:57, just 60 seconds after he came in, and Grant Boswell is back on the course.
I was able to start out on a relatively relaxed note and just take my time and do a slow transition, because when you do finish the bike, your legs are a little bit rubbery and you start to stand up and try and run, and it's really an odd feeling. So I just took my time and nice slow beginning. The first 3 or 4 miles was a real nice smooth steady pace. Then I picked it up from there and just tried to hold my lead on Mark.
You gotta win by that much.
As Mark Dragon approaches the end of the bike leg and in second place, spare a thought for the other race. Those who are out there just to survive. 50 kilometers back in the field, Barbara Fay is just rounding the mark for the long haul that leads back to the start of the marathon. These are the pluggers, the ordinary people who get involved in this basically to get healthy and got hooked. As he approaches the end of the seemingly endless bike leg, Mark Dragon knows who he really has to beat out here today.
In endurance sports, basically, you compete against yourself. I try and concentrate on the race as one and try and pace myself over, well, however long it's going to take me, hopefully somewhere between 9 and 10 hours. So as far as the most difficult part, it's usually the run for most people, because that's when you're most fatigued. For me, that's my strength, so I don't mind the run. I think the way the weather's turning, it's getting quite windy, and it's also quite cool, that the cycle, will be very tough. It's the longest part of the race, the cycling.
But as the men go through their transitions to the marathon, misfortune has overtaken one of the leading women competitors. A few moments after these pictures are shot, Canadian Jackie Shaw is out of the race.
I was really disappointed. I had 2 flaps, and then I had a slow leak right at the end, and I just, with having to stop 3 times, it kind of deflated me as much as my tires.
A quick refresher, and Mark Dragon is off on his strongest leg, the marathon.
You're feeling okay? Yeah.
I'll give you
back
a split
okay?
at 10K, Mark.
Back all right? Oh, it's getting better now. Okay. Take it nice and easy. Don't pound too hard. See you later.
on Dragon's heels is 25-year-old Paul Bannister of Sydney, the leader on the swim leg.
Carlson from Wahroonga, Sydney, New South Wales.
And Glenn Carlson, an expatriate Canadian now living at Wahroonga. Heading off in 5th place is Glenn Davies, 26, of Auckland. As Erin Baker, the leading woman competitor, crosses the line, another New Zealander, Kim Harker, sets off on the 42.2-kilometre final stretch. Moments later, back on the road, Erin makes a quick check. Yep, number 1.
I felt really good, and I sort of got over, I didn't feel all nervous or anything like that. I just thought, you just do. I watched a film of the twins about a week ago at Alison Rowe's place, and I just saw the way they relax. They really just take things so easily. Just if they want to be on top of their handlebar, and if they want to walk, they walk.
If the objects of Erin's admiration could have heard that, it might have helped, because things aren't looking good for the superstar Puntus twins. Patricia is now lagging 27 minutes behind the flying New Zealander, and sister Sylviane is 6 minutes further back at the change.
Oh, pretty good. Good, Diane. Good girl.
It's now 1:34, and out on Lakes Way, Grant Boswell still hasn't forgotten his old training partners.
So what are Tinley and Allen doing, drinking beers?
I think so.
Tell them to save me some.
One of the genuine mysteries about the triathlon is just what gets these people involved in such an extraordinary activity. A 43-year-old Sydney psychologist and triathlete Neil Robinson has a few thoughts on the subject.
Probably the beauty about triathlon is this whole question of competitive life. I think one of the attractions is that marathon running, for instance, is very damaging on your system. And I think a lot of us, that is the hackers, not the elite people, a lot of the hackers are finding that they're doing 100 mile a week to run the marathons. They've hit a plateau. They're not getting any better, but they're hurting themselves a lot. Triathlons, I think we've all found, are very easy on the body to train for and very easy on the head because you have got a variety in your training all the time, and it's just wonderful to get away from doing long miles and nothing more than long miles on the road running. So I would imagine the life, and it's interesting to note that the age of the competitors is quite high, that the life is very long. One friend of mine is in his mid-60s, and he's still going strong. No, I'm right, thanks.
Faced with the reality of the challenge, Neil Robinson is still in good spirits.
I suppose everyone said the same.
It's 2:58 in the afternoon as he strides out to begin the
I'll
marathon.
be happy just to walk out the run. Had a good ride, a bit quicker than I thought. Hope I don't pay the penalty. Happy to start straight. Thanks, mate. Where do I go? Happy to start straight out there.
20 kilometres in front of Neil Robinson, race leader Grant Boswell is still thinking about his fluid intake and the competition.
Is Dragon gaining any?
The answer is yes, but the question now is, can Mark Dragon keep the pressure on long enough to close that 15-minute gap? Eight hours into the race, and the cracking pace has finally separated the Puntus twins. Sylviane here is now lying third in the women's race.
Want some water? Oh, yeah, that's right. Pretty nice and fresh too. Water? Yeah. Oh, my, keep it up. Good on you, Jonah. See ya. Woo. Keep going.
Up ahead, it's becoming apparent that something quite extraordinary is afoot. Erin Baker, the 23-year-old Kiwi who took up the triathlon because she thought she was getting lazy, has improved her position to an amazing 8th overall in this top-class international field. She's beating most of the male athletes. This could be one for the record books. The others, like Barbara Fay and Teresa Kunyeva, victory will be simply to finish. The long hours on the road are taking an obvious toll. It's getting close to 4 o'clock now, and Grant Boswell's on the home stretch. His mind is now focused on one thing, the finish line at Forster Surf Club, 2 kilometers ahead. All thought of opponents or colleagues who were frozen out are gone now. All that's left is the rhythm of the feet as they pound towards that $12,000 winner's check. And then it's over. Grant Boswell wins the Great Lakes Triathlon in 9 hours, 9 minutes, and 58 seconds. Still out there racing, Mark Dragon gives himself a symbolic boost. He's not going to win, but he's pushed the Californian to the limits. A personal best.
The run felt great. It's the best marathon I've ever had as far as, the feeling. It wasn't super fast, but it was consistent.
Out on the course, you'd never know the tape had been broken. It's Mark Dragon the crowds want to see. The first Aussie home in this premier event.
I suppose I got a bit worked up. There were so many people out on the course cheering and calling my name. Even the competitors, a lot of the Aussies that I know and some that I don't know were saying, "Come on, Drags, come on, Mark, you're going well, keep it going." And that's something that I don't think you find in many other sports. And it was pretty moving for me. And to see so many people at the finish was fantastic. And I think they gave me a great reception. So it was pretty moving.
Buddy. Well, how you feel? How you feeling? Not bad. Good. You going all right? Oh, not too bad. I've got worse, let's face it. Yeah.
And then comes Erin Baker. Astonishingly, before even turning into the straight, this virtually unknown New Zealand athlete has smashed the women's world record of 10 hours, 25 minutes. She crosses the finish line in 9 hours, 53 minutes, and 45 seconds. 31 minutes and 15 seconds better than the previous best time ever. The crowds go wild as Erin Baker runs into sporting history.
My coach said I'll be an endurance athlete. It's not fair. It'd be nice to be good at the small ones.
We'll see you back here next year.
Yeah, definitely.
The scale of Erin's achievement becomes strikingly obvious a full 40 minutes later, when the second woman, 24-year-old Canadian champion Patricia Puntis, crosses the finish line. Night has fallen by the time her twin sister Sylviane also enters the home stretch. Erin Baker has beaten her by just 1 minute short of 1 hour. For some, the final disappointment is hard to take.
I always just missed out. I'm just not good enough.
For others, it's a joy just to arrive. For Billy Collis, there's pain overcome.
I've got a broken shoulder.
For Barbara Fay, victory in her age division.
Can I have a passageway, please?
And for the rest of the 104 finishers, the sweet taste of simply getting there.
Just want to get my breath back.
Nah, just keep on walking a little bit, sweetie. Don't stop.
I've got so far for a beer.
Oh, no, you can't have a beer. Not just yet.
How long?
5 minutes.
4.
Forster, April 20, 1985. Mark this place, this day. For it's here that Australia stepped into the big league in one of the world's fastest growing and most demanding sports. In years to come, it's expected that this race, Australia's first full-length triathlon, will officially qualify its top finishers for the world premier event, the Hawaiian Ironman. But that's the public side. Today's greatest victories have been won on a smaller field, that of the individual human heart. And the honor roll runs a long way past the actual winners.